Assalamu alaikum students. I hope everyone will be fine. Students, previously we talked about the structure of chloroplast and function, and then we looked at the factors which are going to affect the rate of photosynthesis, right? And you see in the book, after the factors comes the topic of the subtopic of C4 plants, and after that comes the trapping the light energy. But today we will be talking about trapping light energy and chromatography and all that first, and then in the next lesson we will be talking about the C4 plants. Okay, so today we will talk about photosynthetic pigments and trapping the light energy. Now you see, earlier we talked about the photosynthetic pigments, that they can be of two types. It can be accessory pigments, they can be of primary pigments. But you see, now we are going to talk about the division of the photosynthetic pigments in some other perspective. Okay, so chloroplast, basically they contain, we know that they contain several different pigments, and these different pigments, they absorb different wavelengths of light, right? And um, and photosynthetic pigments, in case of higher plants, they can be divided into two groups. It can be the chlorophylls, it can be carotenoids. Okay, so one group of photosynthetic pigments is of chlorophylls, and the other group of photosynthetic pigments, that is of carotenoids. Okay, now we will look at this, that you can see how is the division of the photosynthetic pigments are the various plant pigments which are present in the inside the chloroplast. Now you can see the plant pigments are there, and there are two main divisions: photosynthetic pigments and protective pigments. This protective pigments, we are not going to talk about these because they are they are nowhere the part of the syllabus anywhere. But just to tell you that why they are called as the protective pigments, because these pigments, they protect the photosynthetic system of the plant in certain conditions. For example, when there is an excessive fluctuating light there, when a plant is exposed to the excessive fluctuating light, then these protective pigments, they are going to protect the photosynthetic machinery of the plant cells. So anyhow, they have certain other functions as well, depending on the circumstances. But as we can assume from the word, that they are going to serve the purpose of protection. Okay, and protection is of what? That's of the photosynthetic mechanism, photosynthetic system of the plants. Anyhow, leaving apart, we are going to talk about the photosynthetic pigments, and then we can see photosynthetic pigments, as we discussed earlier, that in case of higher plants, photosynthetic pigments, they form two groups. One is of the chlorophylls and one is of carotenoids. Then we can see that chlorophylls, they have further two divisions. In the same way, carotenoids, they have further divisions. Now you see, carotenoids, there are two types: xanthophyll and carotenes. Okay, and then chlorophylls. Chlorophyll, actually, there are two main types of chlorophyll. Actually, chlorophyll, whenever we talk about chlorophyll, generally, it doesn't mean that it is a single pigment. It is a group of pigments once again. Okay, and among the chlorophylls, the main chlorophylls are chlorophyll A and B, but otherwise there are other types of chlorophyll present as well. For example, chlorophyll C, chlorophyll D, etc. Okay, but as chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B, they are the main forms of the chlorophylls. So that's why most of the time you see these two types to be discussed there. So chlorophylls, they further have the two types, the chlorophyll A and the chlorophyll B, while the carotenoids, they can be classified into xanthophylls and carotenes. Okay, now you see, we can see that the chlorophylls, and if you remember, chlorophylls, they form the and among the chlorophyll A actually forms the primary pigment, while other forms of chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, and carotenoids, they form the accessory pigments. Okay, now if we look at the color absorption, that which pigment is the that the chlorophyll, it's which pigment is going to absorb mainly the which color region of the light spectrum. Okay, so you will see that the chlorophylls, they mainly absorb in the red and blue violet regions of the light spectrum. Okay, and as far as the carotenoids are concerned, carotenoids are they are usually absorbing mainly in the blue violet region of the spectrum. Okay, but as far as if you see their colors, chlorophyll A yellow green, chlorophyll B blue green, beta carotene orange, and you see that's why the color of the carrot, that's because of the presence of the carotene. Okay, and that's why the word carrot was also given because of the presence of the carotene in the carrots. Okay, and then you see xanthophyll. Xanthophyll is of yellow color. So these are the colors of commonly occurring photosynthetic pigments: chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, beta carotene, and xanthophyll. Okay, so these are the colors of these photosynthetic pigments. What are actually their colors? Now, once again, coming to this point, okay, how do different pigments, they differ from each other as far as their absorption in the light spectrum is concerned. Okay, so as I have told earlier, that chlorophylls absorb mainly in the red and the blue violet region of the light spectrum, and chlorophylls reflect green color. Remember that. That's why plants look green. Okay, carotenoids, they mainly absorb in the blue-violet region of the spectrum. Okay, remember one thing, we are not concerned with the detail of all these things anywhere. Okay, so we will be just dealing with it as per the requirement of the syllabus. So first of briefing it once again, that how do different pigments they absorb in which region of the light spectrum. So chlorophylls, they absorb mainly in the red and blue violet region, while chlorophylls, they reflect the green color. That's why the color of the plants seems to be green, while the carotenoids, they mainly absorb in the blue violet region of the spectrum. Okay, and this is you see, this is just a diagrammatic, basically it's a white light which has the different components. Then so you can see the leaf pigments, they absorbed most of the colors, while green is reflected. So that's why leaf is appearing green. Then you can see over here one thing, no need to memorize the structures. Okay, this is just even their description is not required in the syllabus. We need not to tell actually, okay, what is this and what is the head portion, what is the tail portion. This is just, they have shown that what is the structure of chlorophyll A molecule. Basically, if you but let me just describe it a bit, that you can see this is the head portion and this is the ringed structure actually, and this ring structure is called as porphyrin, right? And if we look at the structure of the porphyrin ring, basically it has the same basic structure as the heme group of the blood pigment hemoglobin. If you remember, if you have seen the structure of hemoglobin molecule, then you can see in the heme group magnesium is also present in the center. Same is the case over here. So basically this head portion of chlorophyll A molecule, that is a ring structure, it is called as porphyrin ring. Okay, in which magnesium is present in the center, magnesium atom. And then you see there, this is a hydrocarbon tail, and basically in this case this hydrocarbon tail is called as phytol tail. But once again, no need to remember these rings, ring name or this tail name. Okay, that is just for your information, that this head ring, that the head portion which consists of a ring structure, and that ring is called as porphyrin ring, and this tail is, which is a hydrocarbon tail, this is called as phytol tail. Next is the structure of carotene and xanthophyll. This is not even given in the book. I have taken it from some other reference book of Cambridge. And you can see over here that carotene and the xanthophyll, they have a similar basic structure. And this structure, it consists of two rings. And these two rings, they are linked with each other by a long hydrocarbon chain. Okay, so this is the hydrocarbon ring, this is the hydrocarbon ring. So in both carotene and xanthophyll, I'm once again saying the basic structure is similar. However, there are differences as well, but we are not concerned with the differences. Okay, so there are two hydrocarbon rings which are linked with each other through this long hydrocarbon chain, and You see, the greater, generally we say that greater the number of double bonds in the hydrocarbon chain, the deeper is the color. Okay, we are talking about these double bonds which are present in the hydrocarbon chain. So this was all about the structure of carotene and xanthophyll. Now next comes, we have to talk about the various types of spectrum. It's absorption, in your syllabus, it's absorption spectrum and it's the action spectrum. Okay, and you see, we know that visible light, that is made up of different wavelengths, and we also know that the shorter the wavelength, the greater the energy it carries. Okay, and a pigment such as those of the chlorophyll, they will absorb some wavelength of light more than others. Okay, so you see, absorption spectrum, as far as, remember that in the, we just need to memorize the exact definitions of absorption spectrum, and obviously we should be knowing about the graph as well. Okay, and the same goes for the action spectrum. So an absorption spectrum, basically what is this? It is a graph of the absorbance of different wavelengths of light by a particular pigment. So you can see over here, the wavelength of light is given over here and the absorbance is given on this y-axis, and you can see the three different pigments are there. Chlorophyll A is there, chlorophyll B is there, and carotenoids is there. Okay, so uh, what is the absorbance of different wavelengths of light by a particular pigment? This graph, when we plot this graph, you know, between the wavelength of light and the absorbance of light by a certain pigment, then that graph is called as absorption spectrum. We can see over here that at which wavelength of light they are going to have the maximum absorption of light, and at which wavelength of light they are going to have the minimum absorption. Okay, then we come to the action spectrum. Okay, now once again, action spectrum is also a graph. Okay, like if we look at this, this is, you can see this is a graph. Okay, now what does this graph show? That graph is actually the rate of photosynthesis at different wavelengths of light. So you can see on the y-axis we have the rate of photosynthesis, while on x-axis we have the wavelength of light. So we can see with the help of this graph what is the rate of photosynthesis at different wavelengths of light. So this type of graph which shows the rate of photosynthesis at different wavelengths of light, that is called as the action spectrum. Okay, like over here we can see that this action spectrum clearly shows that 450 nanometer, around about 450 or 420 to 450, which is the blue region actually. Okay, this blue region, and then 650 nanometer, right, which is the which is the red region. It means that the blue and the red light, they are the most effective in bringing about photosynthesis, because rate of photosynthesis is maximum at these wavelengths of light. So once again, action spectrum, coming back to this, an action spectrum is a graph of rate of photosynthesis at different wavelengths of light. Now the thing is this, action spectrum, it shows the effectiveness of different wavelengths, like which wavelength is more effective. Obviously, effectiveness is related to the rate of photosynthesis. More effective is the wavelength, more is the rate of photosynthesis. Okay, and we know that effectiveness of different wavelengths, that is related to their absorption and energy content, and we also know that the shorter the wavelength, the greater the energy it carries. Okay, so this was all about photosynthetic action spectrum. Okay, now you see the next one, a very small discussion is there. Like actually, if you remember, when we talked about the natural process, the process of photosynthesis, which was happening naturally in a plant. Okay, and if you remember that we discussed that obviously in that case, when we are discussing the rate of photosynthesis, when we are discussing the process of photosynthesis within the plant body, obviously the pigments are present in their in the photosystem, in the form of photosynthesis photosystems. Okay, and that what happens over there, when the energy is absorbed and when that light energy is transferred to the primary pigment molecule, electron gets excited, which we say it's the process of photoactivation. And then that electron, that excited electron, is emitted from the chlorophyll molecule or from the reaction center. And then that excited electron is captured by an electron acceptor and passing through a series of electron carriers. And when the excited electrons they pass to the electron carriers down the energy level, energy is released on the way. And that energy is used for the synthesis of ATP. And then after that, electron is going to come back to its photosystem, as in case of cyclic, or in case of non-cyclic. We remember that photosystem 1 absorbs the electron from the photosystem 2. Photosystem 2 takes the replacement electron from the photolysis of water, और जो photosystem 1 के electrons हैं वो NADP के साथ हाइड्रोजन आयन के साथ कंबाइन होके NADP को रिड्यूस कर देते हैं, ठीक है. But now we have to see if the photosynthetic pigments are extracted from the leaf and then they are present in the form of the solution. So what happens to that if they are exposed to the light? Okay. So if a solution of chlorophyll A or chlorophyll B, now obviously we are talking about a solution of extracted chlorophyll, extracted pigments which have been extracted from the leaf and they are no more present in their photosynthetic system, in their natural photosynthetic system. Okay, so if we have a solution of chlorophyll A or B and we illuminate that chlorophyll solution with UV light, we can see a red fluorescence. Okay, now we have to see how that red fluorescence is produced. Basically what happens, UV light is absorbed by the photosynthetic pigments, whether it's chlorophyll A or B. What happens once again, electrons are excited, but in a solution which is containing extracted pigments only, this energy cannot be usefully passed on to do the work as it happens as compared to that when it is happening in case of process of photosynthesis occurring inside the plant. When photosynthetic pigments, they are present inside the chloroplast. Now what happens there? Electrons, they return to their unexcited state. Okay, and what happens to that absorbed energy which has been absorbed by the electrons? That energy is lost to the surroundings. Now it's lost to the surroundings either as thermal energy and then as light. So that's why a red fluorescence is seen. While in case of functioning photosynthetic system, when the photosynthetic pigments, they are present inside the chloroplast, basically this is the energy which drives the process of photosynthesis. And remember, we discussed this point at the start of the cyclic photophosphorylation, that when electrons get excited and they are emitted from the chlorophyll molecule, one option is that they return to the same photosystem, and in that case the energy which the electrons they have absorbed, that is going to be lost either as the thermal energy or as light energy, remember. And then we said that actually this does not happen, rather than it falls back to the photosystem, that excited electron, that emitted electron, that is captured by an electron acceptor, and then it passes through a series of electron carriers and energy is released, and that energy is used for the synthesis of ATP. And we know that ATP is going to be utilized in the light independent reaction. Okay, so basically in the functioning photosynthetic system, this is the energy which drives the process of photosynthesis. But when we are talking about the extracted pigments, then electrons, once they absorb the energy, they get excited. But as now we are talking about the extracted pigments which are present in a solution, so that energy, that absorbed energy, cannot be usefully passed on to do the work. So what happens, electrons return to their unexcited state, and that absorbed energy is lost to the surrounding as thermal energy and as light. That's why a red fluorescence is seen when extracted pigments like chlorophyll A or chlorophyll B, when they're exposed to the UV light. So I hope this point is clear. The next one is that the chloroplast pigments, they can be easily extracted from the leaf. We have already seen that. Okay, then that the leaves, they can be ground, and after that if we obviously we add the buffer solution to that, and that extract can be taken, okay, and that extract is going to have the chloroplast pigments. So chloroplast pigments can be easily extracted from the leaf, and then various photosynthetic pigments, they can be separated from one another by using the technique of chromatography. Chromatography, I know that you must be well aware of chromatography. You must have read it in chemistry as well. So we will just have a brief look at what is the chromatography. Though in the book, they haven't given any detail of this, but I have just mentioned it in the slide as well. So photosynthetic pigments, they can be separated from each other by using this technique of chromatography. And remember, we should keep this thing in mind that the separation of molecules depends on their solubility and molecular mass. So what happens that we take a mixture of pigment, and that mixture of pigments, like obviously the extract which has been taken from the leaf, we take a mixture of those extracted pigments, and that is placed in the form of a drop at one end of a paper strip, and then lower end of paper strip is dipped in a solvent, and you see, and we put it inside a in a cylinder which is meant for chromatography. And as solvent moves up the paper, it is going to carry the molecules with it. So different pigments, they separate out at different distances from the original spot depending on their solubility and molecular mass, okay. Each pigment can be identified then by calculating the RF value. RF value, we know that it stands for retention factor. RF value can be calculated by using this equation: distance traveled by obviously one pigment spot, because soon we will see, as soon as the chromatography, the process of chromatography starts, those the single drop of extracted pigment which was placed on the paper strip, from that you will see that as the solvent is moving up, the different lines, they start separating, and at a certain distance they are going to stop. So RF value can be calculated by using this equation: distance traveled by the pigment spot divided by distance traveled by solvent. And for any particular solvent used, each pigment has a characteristic RF value. So this is, you can see over here, this is the chromatography setup. Like you see, a mixture of pigments extracted from leaves is placed on the paper at a pencil mark. This is the solvent. This is the paper strip. And then you can see the solvent rises up the paper, carrying each pigment at a different speed. This, and like you can see over here. What happens? Sorry. Okay, you can see the carotenoids are here. The chlorophyll A is here. Chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B. So this is how the different photosynthetic pigments, they are separated. So you see, the chlorophyll B is the bottom one. These are the bottom ones, the chlorophyll B, and chlorophyll A is the upper one. And over here is the placement of the carotenoids. So with this, we end up our lesson, today's lesson. Inshallah, on Friday, we will be discussing about the C4 plants. How can we grow the plants in protected environments like the glass houses or the greenhouses? And then how we can investigate the rate of photosynthesis using an aquatic plant. So till then, Allah Hafiz, take good care of yourself. Have a nice day. Thank you.